Shantanu Moitra, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Shantanu, we'll be talking today about the background music of your latest film, Sardar Udham. But before that, I want to say that this conversation is going to be full of spoilers. So who are yet to watch the movie, please go and watch the film first and then maybe watch this conversation. Um, and to start with, a large part of, or the first half of the Sardar Udham have these silences or very less talky portion. It's exactly from the time when Udham Singh goes to England, the story moved back and forth from India to UK to USSR and then to England. I watched the film a couple of times, even watched few scenes on mute to see the impact of BGM. What approach you took while designing the soundscape of Sardar Udham?
Actually, this film has been a journey for me in itself. When I started scoring the film, I did not know a word called COVID.
Oh.
But pretty much by the time I ended the score, the world knew what COVID is. Forget what Shantanu knew or not. So there were few things which I had to improvise dramatically. One is that I did not have any tools. I did not have a recording studio. I did not have a film. Okay. Only thing we used to do is every day morning, Shoojit would call me up and we would discuss a scene. We would discuss the visuals and we will discuss the essence of what is it that is wanted. Say verbal, koi picture nahi, nothing. I would compose, and now that I talk about this, it seems almost madness. I would compose it just in my head. I had nothing. I would score it in my head, and then I would call up my arranger, George, who was in Kerala. Tell him ki yaar, da 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 da. I said, give me this kind of feel, this thing. Verbal. He'll create something. I will take that something. I will then call up Bangalore, where Ambi Subramaniam is there, who is Dr. Subramaniam's son, and says, I want this kind of feel. Again, verbal. Just basic. The way we college mein gaana bajana karte the, the kind of music we used to do. That's how we did Udham Singh's score. This is an amazing lesson in when your hands are tired, that's when you improvise the most. And Udham Singh is a case in point because throughout the film, Shoojit never showed me a visual.
Wow.
He just told me who is Udham Singh and what is he setting out to do. And the only brief to me was get into the mind of Udham Singh. I want silence. Create music, but you create music in such a way that it seems like silence. Now that's a very, very difficult brief if you understand that. Usually composers, we are all megalomaniacs. हमको चाहिए कि यार लोग सुने, अरे क्या बात है शांतनु सर, क्या कमाल का बांसुरी बजाया है, क्या what beautiful guitar piece. Here is the director telling me that I don't want anybody to notice this. Hide this behind the screenplay, the dialogue, the sound effects. Yet, I should feel the music. Because Udham Singh is not, he's post Jallianwala Bagh, if you've seen, and it happens in the end in terms of edit, but basically, वो एक डुबकी लगाता है पानी में.
Yeah.
He immerses in the water and he comes out, and that is the birth of Udham Singh as we know, which is a deadpan, almost like a meditative. He's in a trance. Nothing else matters to him. There's only one objective. I have to capture that music.
Sure. What type of music were you listening to while composing the score for Sardar Udham?
I was actually, honestly, Shoojit was working on this film for 10 years. And I don't know whether you know this or not, me and Shoojit were together in Delhi playing football and college and all that. I know of his passion for Udham Singh. So pretty much I think my work with him started even 10 years back when he was talking about it. It was their subconscious. So as such, I didn't specifically listen to something, but what I did was I am a huge fan of John Williams
Okay.
and his combination with Steven Spielberg. And for me, one of the most incredible scores is Schindler's List. And I remember when I watched Schindler's List, when I finished seeing the film, and when the title came up and written score John Williams, I realized that I had not heard the score at all in the film. And later on, when you heard the score of Schindler's List, it's played by Isaac Perlman. Rongtek ho jata na, you are like goosebumps. And that's when the idea came that such a phenomenal piece of music John Williams had created, but it's laid down in such a way in the film, you don't hear it. And that is probably a reference I had for doing Udham Singh.
What was the motivation behind creating this soundtrack for you?
I think the motivation was the fact that very rarely is a revolutionary being portrayed not as a hero, but as somebody who is deeply hurt, is a normal human being, and whose youth died the day he saw Jallianwala Bagh. And that is my motivation to do the score, really the character. Because the truth is, I'm seeing 21, 22, 23, 24-year-old kids all around me. And God bless all of them. Hope they never have to see something like Jallianwala Bagh. But that does not stop me from understanding and empathizing that what happened to this boy. He was a simple boy, like we know. We were that age. And what must have happened that shook him up so much that he realized that my only purpose for life is to seek revenge for what happened. And I think that was the motivation for my score.
Although the film is set in 1930s, but the sound is very contemporary. Like really no use of any folk tune. Like, or generally we see that new movie set in a different time period where, they reflect the music of that era. But here it was very today.
Yes, I think one thing was that we wanted the young people to look at it. We wanted to have a how do I put it, to relate to this story. This, though it's a period, it's an incident which happened in history. Somehow I know all of us felt who were working on the film, it's happening today, and it will keep on happening. A voice will raise whenever injustice is happening. So in many ways, it's contemporary, and therefore the sound design, the music, I wanted to be something that people relate to, and not just think, "Arey, ye to tab hua tha." Nahin, ye aaj bhi ho raha hai, ye aaj bhi ho sakta hai. That's where the music for me played a very important role, which bridged the gap between history and today.
Okay, let's talk more about the background score. I've watched the film again, and then I listened to the background score that's available on the music streaming site, on music streaming platform. Nowhere in the BGM you built a crescendo in the music, especially at the places where something big or important is going to happen in the film.
Yeah, I think once I had created these things before, and actually the album is what you hear is one. I had the film in my head when we sat down in the mixing theater. As I said, that some of the sequences were so powerful, I seriously felt that silence is the most important music I can give there, and I kind of pulled it out. Anyway, I genuinely believe that, and this is a big statement I'm going to make, that often music is used to hide flaws.
Yeah.
I don't think so. This film needed that. This film was far too evolved for music to support it. It did not need that musical support at all. Only in places where it was needed, it was needed. This film for me is a case study of how minimalism has worked beautifully when it comes to the score of Udham Singh.
The film is so heavily dependent on the BGM. How much back and forth happened? Were there portions where you felt after watching the movie during the trials where you felt, oh, just that thing needed to be changed, and you went back and scored it differently?
It's a very good question you've asked. And Vishal, the truth is, I think there was some other power connecting me and Shoojit on the film. Trust me when I say this. Everything that I have visualized for a year and scored without seeing the film, 99.9% was accurate.
Wow.
कुछ भी नहीं करना पड़ा, थोड़ा ऊपर नीचे करना पड़ा end में मेरे को. That's it. And that is a testimony to the incredible brief that Shoojit gave me, the clarity which he had. And I think, as I said, there was a higher power helping me in this film because it's uncanny. You have to understand, I'm scoring a film without seeing the visuals. I'm scoring a film based on just an idea, an ideology.
Your imagination.
So on the imagination, and that's why I think hum bolte na ki music is a God's gift. I can understand this because rationally it doesn't make sense, but it makes so much sense because I was scoring to an emotion, not to an incident. I think that was the key. Another very important decision I took, I don't know whether you noticed this or not. In this entire score, there is no percussions.
Yeah.
कोई भी percussion नहीं है, तो कोई time नहीं है. There is no timing. It's absolutely mellifluous. So what happens is, कब आ रहा है और कब when it's going away, you can't make out because there is no beat. ये सब कुछ नहीं है.
नहीं.
And goes off. Keeps on reminding the audience that we are talking about an extremely unfortunate incident in Indian history, which changed the way that people are looking for.
You know, talking about Jallianwala Bagh, although I was supposed to ask you later in the interview, but you know, since we're talking about a sequence, I want to tell you my experience of watching the sequence, how it moved me. When the scene started, I was watching it, you know, the terrific sound design and bullets are firing, and then I shut my eyes and I couldn't watch the sequence. And the only thing which was going in my ear was your background score. Did it move you when you watched it after completing the score of that sequence?
Very difficult. That scene was horrific. That scene was painful. That scene was shattering. You know, you'll be very surprised that once I was in the mixing theater, I actually, an entire segment's music, I muted it off. I just shut it off. I said, "Nahi yaar, yahan pe music nahi chahiye." Very rarely does a music composer do that. You know, we're usually fighting with the director here. What happened to my music? Why did you mute it? But here, this was no longer about my music and your music and this score and that score. It was maybe I'm emotional about the thing because it's a movie I'm part of. This is probably one of the most hila dene wala sequences I have seen in a long time. And that's it. That step back I took was not a favor I was doing to anybody. The scene, the character, the visualization, the way Shoojit Sircar directed it, prompted me to become first a human being and then be an artist and understand the trades and the tools and all that. Was a बाद में पहला इंसान, the heart, that entire sequence. And you know, I kept on telling Shoojit, people are going to watch this, right? Because it goes on and on and on. And he says, yes. I remember Shoojit's line to me. He said, "Shantanu, let them get tired looking at it. Only then they will understand what actually happened that night."
Yeah, right. It really moves you very deeply.
And the difficulty for me was कि यार मैं कितना दूं music. I don't know what is more and what is less. I'm unsure. When a sequence like that is happening, I'm unsure. And that is when I and Shoojit used to have long discussions. He said that just you be with this guy's state of mind. That's it. Don't react to anything around. So if you see the score, entire film, the score does not react to the environment. It's only a headspace. It's only the headspace, inner headspace. That's it. And I think that is something which is phenomenal for me that I've achieved in this film is never have I left Udham Singh's mind through the film, except for the credit roll in the end.
What instrument were used for the BGM? Did you work on any particular instrument for the first time?
Vishal, I was very, very, very clear that when I started working on Udham Singh for me had to be Ambi Subramaniam's violin. That cry, that Ambi's, there is a magic in his hand. And I told him when I was working with Ambi, I told him Ambi is playing probably for the first time in a movie. He's a pure Carnatic player, and of course he's played Western classical, but never in a movie score. And I told him that for me, you are the conscience of Udham Singh. That was very clear that I wanted that tone, I wanted that playing, I wanted that feel, and I think that instinct played. And in certain places, I've used the sarangi, but I've played with a tonality. That's again George, who kind of arranged and produced this. He was brilliant in actually understanding the brief of mine. Said, don't make sarangi sound like a sarangi, but give me the heart of it. And that's what he did amazingly. So the violin and sarangi both are talking in a very, very minimalist way, but they do. There's a magic happening out there.
We can't discuss all, but do you have any favorite bits or the moment in the film that was for you became an inspiration for your music?
The top shot in the end, which is a drone shot of the bodies lying down.
Yeah.
That for me was the defining moment of the film. And I actually worked the last score, and it's a long score, it goes all the way into the credit roll, back from there. That is probably one of the most, I don't know, I'm numb. I'm numb when I see something like that.
Moving away from music for a bit, you're of course living your dream right now. You are working on a project called Songs of the River. I'm sure this must be the most adventurous thing you've ever done in your life while creating music. Please tell us more about it.
In 2016, I'd spent 100 days in Himalayas. Vishal, basically, I'm into adventure. I used to do music to fund my adventures. But it's only during the COVID I realized I could marry both. 100 Days in Songs of the River is a promise to my father that I will, he was from Banaras. So it was promised to my father that I will try and understand this river, Ganga. He kept on telling me to come with him to Banaras. I kept on postponing it. And a couple of months back, he died of COVID. I didn't feel, it was not a good feeling to disappoint. I was disappointed that I couldn't take out time to go and see Banaras with me. And I took an oath that I will try and make up for this. And the birth of the idea of cycling down Ganga, 3,000 kilometers, and discover and understand what was my father was trying to tell me. He kept on telling me, if you're a musician, you need to understand the river, Ganga. It's really a discovery about that, interacting with people, their stories. And I know it's also in many ways a meditation. In fact, it's a coincidence you're calling me today. I just finished 1,000 kilometers last night. I'm in Banaras now. But these achievements are important. It's important is what I'm seeing is why Ganga is one of the greatest rivers in the world is not because of the river, but because of the stories and the people who live on its banks and some incredible moments. So yeah, I'm halfway there. I have another 2,000 kilometers to go before I reach Ganga Sagar, which is Bengal. On the way, I'm creating music. But yeah, I'm on a journey of a lifetime.
We are of course looking forward to listen to those to that music. But finally, you really entered our hearts with the songs of Parinita. I'm very curious to know, was there a story behind that famous melancholic track from Parinita, Raat Hamari To Chand Ki Saheli Hai?
Vishal, it's a crazy story. Actually, before the movie even started, I was doing a jingle for Pradeep Sircar. Swanand was writing that jingle. And Pradeep, I finished up doing the jingle by 9 o'clock. And Pradeep called up to say, I'm stuck in a traffic in Bombay, which is the usual story. I'll be an hour late. So nothing to do. I still remember it was night. I was lying down on the ground on the recording studio. I was very tired. Someone was sitting in the morning in the corner, and suddenly he came up. He just said these lines: "रात हमारी तो चांद की सहेली है, कितने दिनों के बाद आई वो अकेली." He was basically, we were waiting and nothing to do, and it was dark, and something sparked, and I said, "Dude, can you just write this down?" And he wrote it, and trust me, in exactly 45 minutes, we created the song. There was nothing. And then Pradeep came, and he obviously heard the jingle and said, "By the way, we want to share with you something." And we played the song to him. He loved it. Next day, he had a meeting with Vidhu Chopra. He was kind of in the discussions for Parinita, and that's where he played the song. And Vidhu Chopra called me up to saying, ki, in typical Vidhu Chopra style, ki, "Bengali, मैं एक और बंगाली से काम करता था, पंचम, उसको बहुत मिस करता हूँ यार, तेरा ये गाना ना, रात हमारी तो कुछ छू गई है बात, अगर परिणीता के बाकी गाने भी if you can create like this, then the movie is yours." And rest is history as far as this film is concerned, but this song was really the ticket for my getting to do the movie Parinita.
Awesome. Thank you and all the best. And in the end, may I please request you to give a few lines from the song and call it a night.
रात हमारी तो चांद की सहेली है, कितने दिनों के बाद आई वो अकेली है, संझा के बाती भी कोई बुझा दे आज, अंधेरे से जी भर के करनी है बातें।